Good afternoon, everyone. My name is YASİR SİDDİQUİ. I've been responsible for marketing solutions within IBM. Now, I understand I'm in between your lunch break and here, so I'll try to keep it short and precise as people are coming in. The topic today, which I want to focus at, is around customer centricity. And I'm excited to be here because these are kind of the events when people like yourself, they wonder, what is IBM doing here, right? IBM has transformed in past decades, in many years, from starting of invention of the computers, from starting the magnetic chip. If anyone can ever believe or imagine a life without the magnetic chip or behind your credit card or behind debit card. And we are continuously transforming ourselves. And the key area which our focus is now to understand the requirements of the CMO. And that's where IBM is focusing with line of businesses, not only with the Office of CIOs. So that's why I'm very excited to be in this event to talk about how IBM has transformed itself in the area of marketing and how we are helping businesses to transform how they do their daily engagement. Now, I know this is a very ambitious term. You have been doing your businesses for many years, and IBM comes in and tells you how you can better interact with your client. But we have helped a number of clients within the region, within Turkey as well, within the globally, on how we can better understand your customer to get to know them. So, in next 20 minutes, the focus would be towards, as you've been hearing about Omni-Channel. I will differentiate between this buzzword of omni-channel versus the multi-channel and how we have helped the clients take it into their journey from a multi-channel approach to an omni-channel approach. Yeah? That's very important to understand how these two areas differentiate in order to understand your customer much better. So when I was preparing my slide deck last night, I thought about an idea that every single one of you who are in this room are unique. You have your own requirements. You have your own interest. How does your brand know you? Does your brand know you? Does your brand interact with you at the right time with the right messaging? How would they find out? So just to kind of, after a coffee break, just to lighten up the room. All right. So I've been coming to Istanbul for a number of years now. Yeah. This is about me as an individual. So I live in Dubai. I'm a huge Fenerbahce fan. I watch the game with my friends all the time. My 1980 Range Rover, when the Mission Impossible 3 was shooting in Dubai, it was taken by somebody. They wanted to use it in a desert. So that's something unique about it as well. I live in Toronto, and back in the university days, I used to play flute. I don't know if you guys know what flute is, like the flute, right? It was started as a charity, and the money was good, so I started as a business. So, and I'm sure you know which one the lie is here. I love my wife, but definitely not the shopping part. So, the idea is this for this slide is, this is me as an individual. Does my brand understand me? Do I get any marketing messages from my brand on any of these areas? How would they know that I lived in Toronto? Or how they know that I am a huge Fenerbahce fan, living in Dubai and living in Canada before that? It's impossible for them to find out, but they have all this data. They know that I go to the Facebook page or my Twitter account, etc. And with that type of information, you can personalize the user to understand the customer. And then you talk to them. We always see this, spray and pray and a mass marketing with the users. You receive 10, 15 different SMSs or a communication. You have no interest towards. And that's where the customer experience is going away. Because every department within the organization, they're working in silos. They have their own agenda, they have their own product, they have their own brand, and they think they are doing best in their own silo. But that's where they are wrong, because we have to work as one organization for a single objective. So throughout the presentation, I will talk about it. I will go through it in more bit of a detail. Just want to have a short video about the personalization to set the stage for my discussion going forward. All right.
It's a C2B world. As in, your customer is the center of your business. moving at the speed of life, and expecting your brand to keep up. See this brave new world through a whole new lens, one of analytics and intelligence, bringing your customers into sharper focus than ever before. You can see millions of customers on billions of devices as individuals with real wants and needs. At any given moment, you can not only understand what they're doing, but why. That's insight you can turn into action. Actions that are relevant, rewarding, and real-time. That's IBM Marketing Solutions. Achieve the business results that mean the difference between gaining customer loyalty and losing it. You have the power to connect with customers across all touch points, making every moment meaningful, not only for them, but for your business. When you engage each customer in context, everything changes. Now, you can turn insights into impact. And use that knowledge to tap into new opportunities, even empowering customers to co-create experiences with your brand. Intelligence made meaningful in real time, personalization done at scale, and customer engagement that's always on. Only IBM has the power to help you succeed in a C2B world, where your customers are at the center of everything. IBM Marketing Solutions.
I think in the end they said, in this short video, they talked about so many different things, and it's difficult to obviously absorb some time, especially before the lunch break. But the idea is this, that the C2B world, you're putting the customer in the middle. If you see some of the facts which I picked from the Gartner studies, which they have done recently, to understand that in 2020, the price and product will overtake the customer experience, right? Sorry, the other way around. The customer experience will overtake the price and the product. I don't think so this is going to happen in 2020. This is happening right now as we speak, correct? It's not about only giving the best price. It's not about only giving the best product. It's about giving the customer experience to gain that customer loyalty, to sustain that customer life cycle with your brand. Other facts, for instance, 85% of relationship with the enterprise would be without human interaction. So how do you make sure that if your client is, or your customer is on a mobile, or is it on a website, or is on a different engagement platforms where there is no human interaction, how do you influence this customer's understanding of your product or your brand? Even if your customer goes on the website, search about something, and your brand or your product comes up on that, how do you make sure that from that point onwards, you are influencing this customer's behavior by understanding the customer's type and personalizing this communication? And this is exactly what the point is, that you put the customer at the center, and then you define your product. Now, customer experience is declining from 11% to 3%, and we keep hearing this. These numbers keep on increasing. So why is it happening? Is our companies are not spending money to support the customer experience? That's not true. If any company I speak to right now, they all are working towards a unified customer experience. They're all working towards to satisfy their customers, right? We always hear this, customer first. Anytime you speak to your brand, they are always ready to support you. But then why the customer experience is declining? What is the reason of decline? When I talk to many different verticals, either it's a retail, it's a telecom, it's a banking, one of the biggest challenges, what I see from all these different organizations, they are working in silos. And that is the whole idea around the multi-channel campaign solution. It's a great proposition. But the challenge is that each department is working in silos. They have their own KPIs, they have their own objectives to achieve customer experience, and they think by doing this within the individual silos, they're achieving that because their revenue is fine, and as an overall company sees it as well. But in a long term, when you're not managing your customer life cycle as a one unified experience, that's where the struggle begins. The idea behind centralizing your communication, I was talking to a very big retailer recently in the region, and they have different concepts, or you can call it different brands. So they have a brand for shoe, they have a brand for the home appliances, they have a brand for hardware shop, etc. So how do you make sure when you are talking to that customer who's shopping at all these different concepts, all these different brands, that this customer has a unified messaging towards it, right? Each brand is actually bombarding. And I'm actually a customer for that brand as well. Oftentimes, I receive 5 different communications or 6 different communications within a week. So how do you make sure that which is the optimal time and the offer for this customer so you don't cannibalize your customer? And the idea behind it is that you have to have a centralized, unified marketing platform which can help you achieve that. This is an interesting one, right? This is my favorite slide. Every time I have a presentation with my clients or outside, always, this is interesting to see. Any CEO, if you sit down with him and if you ask him, how is the customer experience for their customers, they always have, 80% of CEO thinks this is great. Our customers are doing very well. Everything is fantastic. This is from the Gartner, by the way. And 8% of their customers, when you interview them, is that they disagree with them, and they don't even agree with their customer experience, what they're getting. So this is interesting, and why is it happening? It's because companies are still focusing on inside-out approach versus outside-in. What do I mean by that? Let's take an example of Best Buy. A good customer reference case study came to me recently. So Best Buy and Circuit City. I don't know if you have heard of Circuit City. It's also a similar type of electronic shop. So Circuit City went bankrupt because they were not able to support and provide the customer experience. What did Best Buy did differently? They took an approach which is inside out, meaning before they design the product or before they design the solution, they understand the customer, and then they design the product after that. They realize that 55% of their customers at Best Buy are women. In order to understand their requirements, when a woman buys a printer, right, I'm not generalizing, but that's what the research came out. When they're looking to go to a store and buy a printer, they are looking for everything at once. They want the paper, they want the cable, so for them, convenience matters the most. So Best Buy did that. They start preparing the solutions and not just the product. When men buys and go buy a printer, it came out that they don't care about the everything has to be at one place. What they care about is the price. So if they can find a cheaper cable from somewhere else, they would rather go there and get the cable from them and buy a printer from Best Buy. So different individuals, different people, and then they're able to actually understand their customer requirements, and then they design the solution. What they did a fantastic job. They acquired a company called Geek Squad. I'm not sure if you heard of that. Geek Squad is the company who does the installation. So if there is a person who's, let's just say a woman, because this is their major customers, when they're buying the product, they are buying not just the product, they're buying a solution. And they want somebody for them to install as well. And they also actually, within the company, they also made this kids play area. So when a woman is actually shopping, they have time, they can actually focus on the product they want to buy. My idea behind is that this is a very key topic right now these days, that rather than designing the product and then launching in the market, you need to understand your customer much better before you can launch the product. So that's what I meant by inside in versus outside out approach. As I mentioned earlier, it's about addressing the customer life cycle. The customer experience starts from the first time your customer interacts with your brand. It starts from the time when customer is searching about you on the product, or if the customer is actually coming to your retail branch. How do you make sure that you have a consistent experience across online channels and the offline channels? That's the big marketing message we give out to the marketeers in the area. Because right now they're focusing on the digital side only. But what about your offline channels? How do you make sure the data from the offline and online is working together as a one single harmony? So the customer life cycle is not only about the website, the mobile push, or the mobile. It's actually about the unified way of looking at this customer and understanding this customer's behavior, his patterns, or his understanding. My first slide, which I put about myself, how do you know about all this information? You can get this information from a retail branch if I walk in, or you get this information from the website. So the combination of these two are very important. If you look at the customers, right, they have their own agenda. CMOs has their own objective as well, and business wants to have their own KPIs. How do you make sure that you are putting your customer in the center and defining the strategy around it? Right? How do you make sure the CMO use data to drive decisions? They have the right insight. We have all this data with us, right? If anyone comes to me in any organization that says, but how do we understand this? How do we understand what this customer wants? How can we actually target this customer on the basis of the more personalization? We have all this information. I mean, look no further. We all have cell phones in our pocket. We are capturing every single move, what the customer is doing, to a point that we can actually predict on where the customer is going to go in next. And that's where the key is. How can you predict and influence customer decision before the client or customer start thinking about it? And that's where the power of marketing and the power of analytics come into perspective. Some of the CMOs were interviewed by IBM. We did actually CMO study. We did actually 3 CMO study before we got into this space. We sat down with line of businesses. If anyone's interested, I'm more than happy to give you the CMO study and the findings of that study, what happened. We interviewed around the world. We interviewed CMOs here in Turkey as well. And we combine all this data together to see where the CMOs are going. Where is line of businesses going? Because right now, CMOs are the ones who are the driving seat. It's not the only CIO anymore. Actually, in some of the organizations, I've seen that they are sitting in the front seat, and they are the ones who are driving the decisions, because in the end of the day, it's their KPI for customer experience for increased revenue. So in this CMO study founding, a CMO of Saks Fifth Avenue, CDO of Staples, large stationery store in North America, or the CMO of ShoeBuy.com or Fresh Direct, there's one thing common in all these CMOs, what they want to achieve. They want to make sure, as I mentioned earlier as well, to have this customer centricity. So they want to put the customer in the center and personalize every single touch point or every single communication customer is having. That's a very powerful thing to achieve, because the amount of data flowing in, amount of channels which are increasing from social media to offline to online channels, and then the number of interactions your customers are having with your organization, there's tremendous amount of data, right? It's not possible to do it without having the support of the technology to understand your customer much better. I personally like this statement. I wanted to put it there. I'm not sure if any of you have seen it before. It's been going around for some time. It's not the strongest of the species, or it's not the most intelligent. It's to adapt to change. Right? IBM is a great example for that. We are adopting to this change, and we are supporting and working with our clients for this new area of requirements which they are facing. We started this journey about a decade ago to understand line of business. IBM is not only focusing in the area of technology or the hardware or where we started from. We are actually working more towards line of business, either it's a procurement, either it's a chief digital officer, or if it's a key chief marketing officer. Great example comes to my mind for this one as well. We all remember the story of Kodak, right? What happened to Kodak? At the time when the Japanese camera producer, I think it was Sony, if my memory recalls me best, when they came out with a digital camera, Kodak never believed that. They said there is no way in the world that you will replace these pictures where somebody's sitting in the living room with their family and they're flipping. You will take away this whole moment from them. So they didn't adopt to the change. And then the other camera industry came in the perspective. They go with the digital camera revolution, and now look what happened. It's basically Kodak is gone, right? So the idea is this, that all your customers and your different brands and different organizations, they are also working towards to adopt this change. The faster we go, the faster we focus on the customer experience, the better it is for us. In the interest of time, I'm going to spend a few more minutes on this one, then move forward. In summary, right, the streamlined communication in real time, that's very important. If your customer is walking by a store in the mall, or he's walking by somewhere in the area, how do you make sure that you target this customer at that time, at that moment? That's the power of real-time marketing. Not only just targeting with a promotional or anonymous message, but targeting this customer in real time in the mall or wherever this customer is to make sure that this is the right message for this customer, right? Creating an omni-channel experience. We talked about multi-channel versus omni-channel, combining the digital channels and combining the offline data. We talked about creating the boost loyalty and reducing customer complaints to understand the customers before they come to a situation that they complain you. And this is how the predictive is. And again, the last line, this will never change, the word of mouth. I mean, even if I'm sitting with my friends and talking about a specific brand, that's always more stronger and more positive than anything else. So in the end of the day, what you want to create with this real-time marketing and personalization, a vibrant community of customers who are talking about your brand to proceed. Just to kind of quickly wrap up here. So again, analyze trends in real-time personalization, customer insight, and improve the processes. It's very also important not just to deploy the solution, it's very important to change the organization culture, which is not easy. Most companies are used to doing the business in their own way, and when we come in and give them the ideas around how you can do it, it's very difficult to change the culture of the organization. So how we can support you to train your employees, to train the people within the customer, within the organization in order to adopt this strategy for customer experience. Improved processes is the #1 challenge companies face when they want to change the way they're doing business for many years. And that's where actually we spend a lot of time in order to make sure that every single person in the organization is working towards a single objective and not just working in silos. So this last one here. It's not only about the channels which we talked about, the SMS or the push or digital, it's also about the customer care as well. If the customer care agent is talking to you, he or she should know what your requirements are beforehand. And he or she can be able to predict the behavior of this customer. And that's the whole idea behind the personalization. The timing, I'll just kind of skip to the slide which I want to focus. I want to focus on Cellcom, right? The one of a great example for telecom. They want to understand the customer at the deepest level to make sure that when every single communication they're having, marketing for them should be as a service and not as just a spray and pray, right, they call it, or not as just throwing out the communication. Marketing should be so good that it should be coming out as a service. So they deploy this complex, event processing to understand this customer requirements. I mean, imagine that. Take action in real time to alert the customer when is the good time to download the video. Obviously, I don't understand Turkish, but I saw in the earlier presentation about the Netflix. That's a great example, right? So this is where they want to see if you are downloading the video, they want to actually help you understand when is the best time. So this is making personalized down to a level. ING Bank in Turkey, ING Bank globally actually also using a solution and deployed it. One of the key numbers here, obviously it's all about the ROI, but one of the key things is 35% reduction in the marketing processes, in marketing operations. That's a very big number to see that. I mean, how you are right now working as an organization, how you're able to reduce it, that's a key value add from ROI perspective. when I just wanted to pick one retail, one bank, and one telecom as a last slide. That these guys, Orvis is a big retailer. I'm sure you're aware of them. They had the record profits after implementing a unified marketing strategy around it. And it's in the end, in summary, I just want to mention that the idea about the marketing solution is not just about deploying a solution and it's going to do the job for you. It's not about that. It's about changing your organization culture first, and then you have to start working on your strategy to execute it. So it's the other way around. This concludes my presentation. If anyone is interested in the CMO study, which we did recently, more than happy to share with you. IBM team we have a booth outside as well for the IBM team. If anyone's looking for more information, more than happy to have a more discussion with you. Thank you very much.